My CFO just said to me, Felix, isn't it time that we looked at great dividend stocks and how to find them? And I said, Tallulah, there's my CFO, that's a great idea. Why don't we do that? And why don't we do something better than that? So I'm not just going to walk you how to select dividend stocks. I'm also going to give you all the data. So if you go to felixfriends.org/dividend, not only will you get a walkthrough to what we talk here, including tax implications, selection, but you will also get a monster benchmark, a dividend stock screener of literally 3,500 listed stocks and REITs and ETFs and everything else. So download that, felixfriends.org/dividend, and you can follow along here with us. So how do we get started? Well, we actually explained it again in the document here, so I'd highly encourage you to do that. And then the little screenshot here of that dividend stock screener, if you click on that, it'll open up the stock screener for you. There is also at the bottom of this a 99% off our core financial freedom program, which basically teaches you how to become a great stock investor. So if you want to take advantage of that, it's only $15 instead of $1,500. I'd give it to you for free, but I know you wouldn't complete the program. That's unfortunately how human psychology works. So I've tried that. So I make you pay $15 for it. And that way you'll actually complete it and get some real value out of it. So check it out. Now, how do we deal with this? Massive amount of data. Well, the first thing would be, of course, we've sorted this by dividend yield because we're all greedy, right? And we're just going, oh my God, it's paying Spirit Airlines is paying a 25% dividend. Let's go and buy it. But is that the right thing to do? Well, the first thing I would look at, can they afford to pay the dividend? And what is their dividend? It's $1.20 per share. And their free cash flow is minus $4.90 per share. So they might be spending money they don't have. Maybe they're even financing this with debt. So it doesn't look particularly glorious. But has the stock gone up a lot? Because dividend stocks go up a lot, right? Well, over the last 5 years, the stock's gone down 90%. Revenue has only increased 5%. Profits are also down. And therefore, this dividend kind of smells like a really crummy dividend, right? It's also massively indebted, 6 times more debt than equity being stock capital, shareholder capital. So that helps you to make better decisions. Now you can filter for each of these. You can add a condition, say greater than, say, or what I would actually do is I would say, let's make this greater than, say, 5% and say 10%. Because once you go over the 10%, you'd end up just with like the really nutty stocks. Let's try that one more time. Filter by condition. And you also end up with a lot of REITs, which kind of give you some really weird data points, which you probably don't want to be looking at. So now we've got still some income funds here, still some REITs at the top. Yeah, in the high 9%. So there's still mostly REITs. But we go down a little bit and we're going to start to find some companies, some actual stocks. Don't know if I know any of these. Probably not. Trusts, packaging. What about this one here? It's a packaging company, pays a 7% dividend. That's pretty good, right? So we can have a proper look at these. But essentially, the idea is the following. You look at high dividend yield. You look at, can they afford it, right? One way would be to say, well, what's the free cash flow per share? And is that bigger or smaller than the dividend they're paying? You want that to be bigger than, so they can actually afford to pay this out. The second thing I would definitely look at is 5-year growth. And I would make this this is total growth. So you might want to make this, say, greater than, the market's gone up 12% on average or something like that. So we kind of want this to be at least 60%, say, right? Otherwise, you're picking really crummy businesses. So now that's filtered us down to just 78 companies. That starts to get a little more interesting, doesn't it? So we've got some Gladstone in here, Civitas, some funds still, but we are reducing the number down significantly. And then you can start going through them. Ford, for example, right? Ford, well, yeah, it doesn't look terrible. If we look at revenue growth, 11% isn't glorious, but debt over equity, 350%, yeah, a little bit sketchy. Ford, for example, is financing their dividends through debt. But what I'd like you to do is play with this, dig deep into it, and then once you find some things you actually like, put them in the comments, and it'll become a conversation. It'll become a discussion, and I think you will help each other out by doing that. So if you do that down below, that'd be glorious. Now, the next step to this is, after selection, well, tax, right? Death and taxes are pretty much guaranteed everywhere in the world. And if you scroll down a little bit in our document, which again you can get at felixfranz.org/dividend, what are the tax implications? Dividends are typically taxed like income, right? Now, there are qualified dividends which are taxed at capital gains rates, which are lower. But really, I wouldn't worry about that too much. What I would really focus on is that you would do this in an IRA, and don't fricking use a traditional IRA. They suck. Traditional IRAs, you put money in and you pay no tax on the income, and you can compound the income, which sounds nice. But that becomes a bigger and bigger pie. And when you then take the money out of the IRA, you pay taxes there. So you pay taxes later, but on a lot more money. Better to pay taxes now and then not pay taxes on the gains. And that's what Roth IRAs are for. They are also Roth 401ks. If you have a job, ask your employer if they have a Roth 401k. And if they don't, make them get one. Because again, it means, yes, you pay some tax now, but on all the gains and on all the compounding, that'll be huge over your lifetime, you will not. So that's a really, really good thing to do. The second thing I'd love for you to do, and of course, this isn't financial advice, we'll just come straight from the cat to Lula. Dividend reinvestment plans. Pretty much every broker out there has a drip feature, and it allows you to reinvest the dividends automatically. And that makes an enormous difference. It again compounds massively. So turn that on. If you don't know how to do it, call your broker and say, I hear you do drips. How do I turn that on? I want to make sure that all the dividends that I get are reinvested. And that way you will end up with probably double or triple the wealth at the end of the road. And if you don't believe me, play with a compound interest calculator. So check it out. I hope the document is useful. I think it's better we do a short vid on this and you can read it and digest it in your own time. And of course, ask me any questions you have. And I thank you for watching. If you found this video useful, share it with somebody who might find it useful too. Winston and Felix here. And Winston just said to me, Felix, it's almost April. What stocks are we buying in April? And I thought, Winston, that's a genius idea.